Thank you. Mr. Hern.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this important hearing today. Mr. Werfel, last November, 2 Democrat senators in press releases bragged about the pressure they put on you and the IRS to delay implementation of the new 1099K threshold that passed in the partisan American Rescue Plan. Both of these senators previously voted in favor of the change. The Democrat senators also bragged about the IRS decision to change the threshold to $5,000, which it would seem to not have the authority to do so. With all due respect, Mr. Werfel, and I know you're in a tough job, but this looks like you're blatantly not enforcing the law and are also unilaterally changing the law because Senate Democrats in the current administration are having second thoughts about just how terrible this policy is that's been enacted. It is my job to provide oversight on this, and the American people do not trust this administration. And why would they, when this administration does not enforce a law that passed through a Democrat-controlled Congress and was signed by a Democrat president? Now that we are in an election year, President Biden's administration refuses to implement the law and unilaterally change the law in a favor because the law in the books is politically unfavorable and punitive to the average American. My colleagues will touch on this, have touched on this for you, but I want to ask you a question regarding the direct e-file program that's just been recently implemented. Isn't it true that private sectors provide free return preparation services outside of the government free file program?
Yes.
What's that estimate of how many they've done based on your data?
I don't know the exact number, but the free file program has been one of the central staples of how we provide free help to taxpayers.
So, but it's when you say it's free, we're actually having to fund that from your side, right? I mean, you don't have this just technology driven. It's not AI driven. It's driven with people in your offices that are actually administering this. You're
talking about the free file program or the direct file program? So the free file.
Free file. So
yeah. Well, we work with the Free File Alliance. These are commercial software providers that have signed on to help provide a path for eligible taxpayers to use their product for free to file their taxes. That is something, and there's resources that the IRS does to ensure that partnership is as successful as possible.
So on the direct e-file program that you're doing, you're
Yes.
competing directly with those corporations.
I don't see it as a competition. I see it as another option for taxpayers.
So if you're saying that these services are provided by corporations, free, and others that are doing business, so we have it there. And so when you say it's free to the American people, you're saying you're providing these services internally, doesn't cost you anything, there's no taxpayer dollars used in your organization for administrative costs to do this?
No, there is a cost, and we've been public about what the potential and cost would be. The goal is to provide taxpayers with options and to help the taxpayers pick the solution for filing taxes that's best for them. Some will file in paper. We encourage them to file electronically. Some will hire an accountant. Some will go to the commercial software and pay. Some will go to the commercial software and try to work that for free. And what we heard from taxpayers, and we heard it pretty loudly, was that there was an interest in having an option where they could file directly with the IRS for free. And we wanted to test whether that option was viable.
With all due respect, isn't that the sort of the old phrase that Ronald Reagan used, we're from the government, we're just here to help? I mean, it's not free. I mean, listen, we've given you billions of dollars. This is not free for you to provide this service to American people. When, I know it might be shocking, but from the data we've gotten from these commercial companies that you've described, somewhere 29 million tax returns have been filed through the direct, for the free file program that they have out there. And so I just, or the direct e-file program rather, just want to make sure that, again, everybody thinks if the government does it, it's free. It's not free if the government provides these services. It is costing taxpayer dollars to provide that.
Yeah, so here's how I would answer that. I would change the President Reagan statement a little bit. We're from the government, and here's an option. And if you don't want to use the option, you don't need to. And we're just piloting it this year, a small-scale pilot. So what's going to happen is we'll evaluate what was the cost, what was the experience, is there a demand for taxpayers? Do taxpayers want the IRS to provide this option?
Yeah, Mr. Werfel, all due respect, only been up here 5.5 years, and this is the age-old thought, and this is long before you got into government and I got into government. Everybody wants to talk about the federal government having money that it really doesn't. It has taxpayer dollars that funds our government. I think we would agree with that. So we're using, I think it ought to be described, it's not free, it's funded by other taxpayers, and them as well. If they're using the service, if they qualify, my guess is I don't know what the criteria is, but my guess is to qualify for that program is that they're probably not paying taxes, and it's a refundable credit that they're getting in many cases. But I'm just saying it's not free. And we should say it's paid for by taxpayer dollars. And you know, this misnomer that we get government services for free is just not true. It's disingenuous. I yield back.
Ms. Sewell.